coming off the loss to Wyoming, did you see a new sort of resurgence with your team in terms of the way you lost, you're in that game, yet it just came down to the last bucket?
I mean, I think the game has been the way just about all our games have been, So, I mean, they're, top of they're Boise State and them are the top two teams in the league in, the net right now. It doesn't matter if we played Boise State or we played Wyoming. I mean, the games have been very similar, and just in terms of, I think, how we've played. Obviously, you're always looking to see improvement in how you play, but I think we've had a consistency in, whether it's Wyoming, whether it's at Boise State, whether it's at San Jose State, whether it's at Colorado State. The lone exception would be Colorado State here, but I think even that, I'll stick with what I'm saying right now. I've seen the same team out there every game through 8 games. For me and us right now in this process we're in, that's the most important thing. We got 10 more of these in league. We're in February. And the most important thing is we see that consistency every single game, that we're in the games with the chance to win the games, because that's what you have to do first and foremost. To ever start to talk about moving up in this league, that's what you have to do first. To talk about it before you're even doing that is just a waste of time. So I'm not going to even bother that. So all the messages to our team is every game we got to be in the game. We got to not fade away. We got to stay in the game, whether we're up 4, whether we're down 6, whether we're down 11 like we were the other day. Doesn't matter. And I think we've done a good job of that. But when you get to February, like I've told our guys all year, it's hard. It just gets harder. And when you get to February, it's the hardest. And that's where we're at now. So we hit February with a winning record, which is very positive for us. But now we're to the hardest part of the season, and we'll see sort of how we respond.
With Logan, why is it so tough to play there?
Well, they've always been a really good home court team. It didn't matter Stu. When Stu was the coach there, they were unbelievable. They historically had longest home court winning streaks in the country. Their student section's unbelievable. They love basketball up there. I mean, that's what they've been really good at through the years. Give a lot of credit to Stu for that. Obviously, then Craig came in and, has done it the same. And, Ryan's going to do the same. It's Ryan, right? His breakout brother, Lane. I just think they have a history of being a basketball school, and they're always good, and it's a tough place to play, but you know what? It's a fun place to play. I guess we've never won there. The last 2 times I've been there, I have won. So you can do it. I know you can do it, but it's extremely difficult, and they're playing really well right now. They're a very good team. They have a lot of pieces, and they're playing really well right now, so it's going to be an unbelievable challenge for us.
Final one for me is you talk about how February is the toughest month. Is it a different feeling being in a race to be in the top echelon of Mountain West compared to what it's been like the past couple of years where you're just trying to scrape something together by this time of the year?
I mean, like anything, I'll know the answer to that question, at the end of February. I just know it's really hard and difficult, and that's what makes a season to season. You start off in November, you get through your finals, and then January, and then league play is in full swing, and you're playing teams for the second time. And they know you, and you know them, and there's that familiarity. And, our challenge right now with our program is, the teams that are the top of this league, they're playing with, Boise State's got 7 seniors. They got 5 fifth-year seniors. The teams in this league that are at the top of the league are playing with older, strong, 22, 23-year-old veterans, but most importantly, who've won. So what's required to win, they've done, and now they're older, and they can sustain it, and they can maintain it. And that's what, for us, given the makeup of our team, that's what's going to be the big-time challenge here as you get into this in the February is our ability to sustain, maintain, and for us, improve, keep improving. Yesterday was the first day I think we practiced in a long time. We had 6 games in 13 days. You take away days off, just having one day and you're going over the game plan, that's not practice to me. practices working on yourself, working on the things that you need to do to get better. We did that yesterday. Are we going to have some of that in February? I hope. And if we do, can we sustain, maintain, and like I said, can we find a way to improve? Can we find a way to get better? And if we do, then, the answer to your question will be, well, okay, February was a good experience for this group. February was the type of experience where this is what it's about in college basketball, and you got to be ready for this time of the year, and you got to be ready to, sort of be ready mentally and physically for what it is, and then put yourself in every game. And then if you do that, then you teach yourself as you get older, right? How do you make yourself be part of the top of the league, and that's what this whole process is for us. And, it starts at Utah State, on February 1st.
With Lucas, how have you seen him grow from maybe first practice to this point? And is he just scratching the surface?
Yeah, I think like anything, any freshman, I've seen unbelievable growth. And then you see freshmen, I'm not going to say hit the wall, but you see them like, oh, they get stood up, like, okay, we're not just going to keep going like this. They go like this, and then they come back down. And the trick is, again, consistency. I think he's doing fine. He's going to keep getting better. It's just as we just talked about, we're now into the league, and we're now playing these, really hard league games. And, that's different than what was going on in November. You know what I mean? That was different when getting ready for the first game in October and then playing in November. That was different than sort of December. So he's learning that, and as he's learning that, the trick is to learn from each game. I'm not disappointed. I'm disappointed in the last game for him because, I think he's going to become a good shooter. And if that's team's game plans, okay, that's fine. You know what? I know we can do something about that. I know he can do something about it. I know we're going to do something about it. And I know he has the right, mental makeup to go ahead and accept that sort of challenge. And he's grown that way. And again, this will be an important month for him because when it gets really hard, the most adverse situations, that's where the most growth comes from. When it's really hard, if you're tough and you sort of embrace it, that's when you can get the most, jump in your collectively and individually. And we'll see, how he does with that in February.
How about on the defensive end? Do you think his presence in the paint, you think he's starting to develop that? And I know there's an art to shot blocking. It seems like he's kind of starting to get that.
Well, there's no question. He's a big-time help for us defensively. It's an experience thing in terms of learning how not to get into foul trouble, learning how to keep yourself on the court. There's a physical element to that. You know what I mean? He doesn't weigh the same as Graham Ike. You know what I mean? He just doesn't. We're playing 32 from Utah State when he's in there. He's 7 foot, 260. That's not Lucas. So there is a physical element to this, along with an experiential element to this. And again, that's why, okay, we're going to stick with it, and we're going to keep working to get better. And if we all do that together, I think this team has shown, okay, they will. And if we have sort of that resolve to keep doing that, I think you'll see him come along, obviously as he goes through his career, that he's on the court longer. He's not in foul trouble. He is physically stronger. And then what you're talking about, sort of that defensive presence, that ability to block a shot, alter a shot, with that physical presence and the experience combined, you'll see, I think, a really good, defender in the Mountain West Conference, which is what we're after. We're after being a really good defensive center and player in the Mountain West, because we got to be able to compete in this league and sort of get ourselves to where, legitimately we're saying we're in the league for the same reason the other teams in this league are in it.
Now, I wanted to ask a couple questions about shooting. I know when you were here the first time around, free throw shooting, you couldn't even watch sometimes, right? And how have you kind of adapted when it comes to that? And as a coach, it's so out of your hands, probably more than anything. Does it frustrate you, and how do you not maybe let those emotions come out?
Well, I haven't been frustrated. I think we're a better, we're a very good, what are we shooting, 37% as a team from three. That's a very good percentage. I think and know we're a better foul shooting team. But again, there's an element to, okay, making fouls when you're in a hard fought, really tough, physical game and you're down 2 or it's a 4-point game. That's a whole different element, And we practiced foul. Yesterday, at the end of practice, everybody shot. Lucas went 18 for 20. I've worked with the shot. I've told him what to do. He goes and does it. He went 18 for 20. So, when's he going to make him in the game? Well, that's why we're playing the games. That's why you're, having these experiences. But I can say that just about for anybody in our team. I think we'll keep doing what we can do practice-wise. But again, I think oftentimes in these situations, just as much as I can't let it get to me, it's the same thing for the player. It's like, okay, taking that responsibility to go, okay, it's a free throw. You know what? I'm a good player. I've played now. I've competed. I've been in tough games. So you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to make my foul shots. And when you go practice them at the end of practice or on your own, you know why you're doing it. And I think once you combine all that together, that's when you see, guys start to be the types of shooters that they should be on the foul line. But sometimes you got to go through it, and we obviously are right now. But I think, as we go through the league, I think you'll see a better foul shooting team.
And going forward, it may mean a few more, as simple as it sounds, a few more wins for you guys, right?
No question about it. I wrote down, and when I talked to our guys the other day, as simple as it sounds, we win when we take care of the ball, when we rebound, and we make fouls. So that's a good thing. That says that you have the components, the players who can compete at that level, defend, run your offense the right way, make shots, do all those things. But the winning part, as you're doing that, comes down to oftentimes, those 3 things. And there's a sort of physical toughness to that, but there's a big-time mental toughness to that, to finishing a possession, rebounding, to making sure you're not giving the ball to the other team and being disciplined and executing. And I've told our guys, oftentimes, the guys that are like that, give me the ball at the foul line. I'll make those 2. What's the score? I don't care if it's tied, down 1, I'm making them, because there's a mental component to that person. And we're sort of in the process of developing that collectively, but obviously developing that individually, as an individual player. That's the kind of player that I am. And, I see that developing in our guys, and hopefully we can keep growing that way in February, starting tomorrow.
And I'm curious, too, when it comes to three-point shooting. It seems like guys are shooting them deeper and deeper. The CSU game, I don't know, because the shot clock was running down, maybe some of your threes were a little deeper. How have you adapted to that? Because I would imagine maybe 10 years ago you would have pulled your hair out of your head. But is it more of an acceptance now, or do you still kind of not like to see it?
Well, what I try to do, one, the CSU, I think we were just taking too many of them, or we weren't crisp and physical in how we were running, so you see some of that. But I still agree with you in terms of, I think the line's 21-6 or 21-8 or 9, something like that. And I try to get my guys to be at 21-10. I believe that 21-10 goes in more than 23-6. But in the course of running your offense and spacing on the court and knowing where to be, I think today in this day and age, defenses pressure out way more than they ever used to say 10 years ago. It just keeps getting that way. And as that's the case, does that drive you back? But then that's where I'm saying that's where you got to get your 2s and you got to get layups and you got to get the ball inside, because I think the more you do that, the more you get the 21-foot 10 shot. The more you're just playing on the perimeter, you might find yourself taking 24-footers. And, for certain guys that might be okay, but for the whole team, that's not okay. So, but that's the comfort level of running your offense, knowing who you're playing against, knowing how they're playing you, and most importantly, I think executing our offense the way it needs to be done, because then it'll produce the right kinds of three-point shots.
No one on your team really has a Trey Young kind of, hey, you got the green light, you cross half court, go ahead,
I think not him. Obviously some of those guys they're different guys. But I think what you find is the more you execute, the more you do inside to out, the more you get layups and the ball in the post, the more guys get those good ones, and they're making them, and they're practicing that, and they're seeing it go in. then that puts you in a position where maybe a guy does develop and come along throughout his career. I think AJ's shown some of that, well, someone does have the ability maybe to make a 24-foot one that you might look at and go, that's a tough one. But there's only one or two of them taken instead of 10 of them, and only certain guys. But if you do it that way, you find guys who develop along those lines. And obviously that helps in today's day and age when there's a 30-second shot clock, when you see every college game, guys come down and the guy makes a play individually. You don't sit there and look at it and go, that's great offense. Wow, look at that intricacy. Look at how they did that. And no, one guy's got it. He's making like an unbelievably difficult shot. And I think kids today, they're way better at that than they were 15 years ago. That's been a major change. Guys, playing and being able to make difficult shots. That's a big time change in the game, and that's a credit to today's player based upon probably how they grow up playing and the games they play in. But that's definitely part of the game now, is having to defend guys that make hard shots.
So in some ways, that could actually benefit you guys, stretching teams out because of the offense you run, right? Backdoor cuts. I mean, it's hard to defend when 20 feet away from the basket.
Yep. I mean, someday that's the goal. Like I always say, is if Wyoming didn't want to guard our center the other day. Okay, well, one day that won't be a good strategy, and then one day when we get stronger and more physical, and we cut harder, and we can handle the physical defenses that people play against us, then the fact that they're trying to do that at whatever foot it is, one day it's going to become advantage us. But that's part of this process that we're going through right now, is we got to learn, right, how to stay with it and be disciplined and get stronger so that, okay, you're going to play us that way, advantage us. But I don't think we're there yet, and that's part of this whole process.
And then my last one is, and it's kind of maybe a little goofy, are you just enjoying this process as a whole? I mean, it seems like you have a great bunch of kids. I mean, they play their butts off. I mean, maybe they're not the results you're wanting, but are you enjoying this process?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, and that's probably where sometimes youth is good. You know what I mean? There's the negative to it in terms of the physical strength or whatever, but there's a, like I say, innocence to it. But the guys they're ready to go. They're ready to go. They listen. I've called it like an eagerness, a willingness from a coaching standpoint. When you go out there and guys are eager and willing, and embrace what you're doing and don't really look to the results, then you start to find out, hey, that guy's a pretty good player. That guy's a pretty good player. There's some good pieces here. And they're finding that out. And I think the most important thing is they're finding it out as a team. They're really finding it out as a team. And I think anytime, you coach like that, and I knew they were going to be young, so maybe that's enabled me to just say, okay, you know what, I'm going with them. Like I said before, make them suffer, live with what we know that it is. But if you do that and you stick with it, you find out, wow, got some guys here, and they know it, most importantly, because they're putting in the minutes, they're getting that experience, they're playing game after game. So they're starting to feel that way themselves, and most importantly, that has to come from them, and I think you see that when they're playing, hopefully we see it Tuesday, but you see sort of a stick-to-itiveness, you see like a toughness, you see a resiliency, and I think everybody sees that, and people like to watch a team that plays that way. So hopefully we can keep doing it and stay focused on, process, don't let things bother us, and if we can do that, we'll improve in February.